You are offering yourself up for the slaughter. You're offering yourself up to be built, to have your mind screwed with. You're willingly going, hey, here's my brain, here's my thought process, here are my ideals and values. Can you manipulate those for me? This is Irene. Okay, so it's a little blurry. Why? Hold on. Okay, sorry. All right, so today we're going to be talking about an interview that Jerron Lehner did. I always butcher his name. So the thing is, I'm a reader. I'm not a listener per se, so I've only read his name for the most part. And for the interview, which I will link below that he did, I actually didn't see the whole interview, so the part that I am citing, I don't think the guy said his name, so I'm sorry, Jerron. I don't mean to butcher your name. With that said, you will notice that my scenery is different. I'm going to be moving around my house a little bit today. I just thought it'd be fun for you guys, for me to change up the atmosphere a little bit. This won't be a regular thing because it's very inconvenient for me to move around my house, just because I like to give my family free reign of the house, and when I film in the common spaces, that's not really possible because we have a very open air house. With that said, it is very echoey, and I'm so sorry. This room has like maybe 40 or 50 foot ceilings. It could be a little taller, I don't know. The ceilings are pretty tall, and so my voice is just dispersing, and so it sounds very like hollow and a little echoey. So I apologize for that in advance, but hopefully you'll forgive that, given that it kind of is shaking things up a little bit. Also, it is raining outside, and so it's raining off and on. So if you hear rain, I hope you're into ASMR, because this is going to be an ASMR-ish type video. It's been raining off and on all day. It's something I have to get used to, because being from California, it never rains, and so when I'm at our home in Texas, I'm like, this is a lot of water. And they don't think it's a lot of rain out here. They actually are saying like we're not having that much rain, and I'm like, are you serious? I also apologize that you can only see like a foot of me or something. I'm only 5'2", and I'm sitting on a lounge chair. And so one of the reasons I like to do those vertical videos is because I'm so short, and I feel like I have to have the camera super close and super low when I do these kind of widescreen videos for you guys to see me. But we're just gonna work with it. And so now that I've done all of my disclaimers and apologies, let's get into the video. So this video is really near and dear to my heart. You will notice that I put a lot of various content up. I used to have more videos than I do now, but I took a lot of them down just because as my channel starts to grow, some of the videos that featured my family, I took down just because some people are very hostile toward me. And so whereas I really wanted to have more of an open book type of situation where I really brought you guys into my personal life and allowed you guys to get to know a very rounded me instead of a very sanitized me, I thought, unfortunately, I had to pull back from that. But I still do have some of my older content up, and that content was done to pander to Google's algorithms. And this ties into what his interview is about. So there are a lot of things I don't care a whole lot about, but I do make videos on them, and I continue to make such videos. So you'll see them pop in here and there because I recognize that the topics I personally would pick, people are not necessarily how I am, and so it would not pander to Google's algorithms, and we'll get into that more in the video. So you'll see luxury videos that I've done. I used to have cooking videos up. I think I took a lot of those down. Just videos that are totally unrelated to anything other than drawing traffic to my channel in the hopes that they will look at content that I find to be more you know, have more substance and value than the superficial videos that I put up. Now, having given that disclaimer, Um, I want to just get into what he discusses in this video. And he says something that I'm very passionate about and I mention a lot. And like I said, when I make videos solely on this topic, I have a video called 4 words and 1 phrase or something like that. 1 phrase and 4 words. I don't know. Something like that. And almost nobody watched that video. But that video is more where my mindset is, where I'm very much against media conditioning. I've said to you guys many times, I don't have television in my home. I don't engage in social media. About maybe a year and a half ago, I got a Facebook page, only because I have a large family. Literally, I have the most ginormous family on earth. There are some cities where I can't walk into a store without somebody in my family being there. And so I use it, my page is private, and I use it specifically just for my family. And so I don't take friend requests and things like that from people that I don't know personally in my personal life that I didn't grow up with. With that said, that's even hard for me to do. And I only drop in there like once every few months. You know, I might drop in for 2 or 3 days and then I fall back, because I feel very passionately about the level of conditioning and control that goes on in society. And the thing that is unique about Jaron is that he is a computer philosopher, a writer, a computer scientist. He is from Silicon Valley. You know, as I mentioned before, I don't know if it made it to this cut of the video, so I'll just repeat it. People have a view of robotics engineers, computer scientists, computer programmers at the highest levels that are not really what these people are like. I know a lot of tech people being from San Francisco, and they're basically hippies, and some of them are like nerdy thugs, you know, basically. So that's what most of these people are like. And if you take a good look at Jaron Lanier, you'll see that he exemplifies who creates these apps, who's behind social media. They're the brains, you know, there are the figureheads that come out and the people that own the companies, but then there are the people that are really doing the work. And he's of that ilk, and he really exemplifies that group of people. And he feels very strongly that people should unplug, which is ironic because he actively functions in the machine, but he feels people should unplug from the machine. It's kind of like, I know public school teachers who homeschool. So the people that I find really fascinating are those people who move in the machine, but they disapprove of the mechanics. Now, I feel he's only genuine to a point because he openly says he's a businessman. So his conclusions are often colored by the pragmatic side, and people like him tend to love pragmatism, you know, absolutely love it. So, and I often say I have a secret love affair with pragmatism myself. But with that said, you guys know that I'm also a humanist. And on a human level, when I look at my comments, it's very disturbing. I'm always excited when I see a comment where somebody is saying something fresh and new. I think, you know, a lot of times when people are heavily conditioned, they don't even recognize the conditioning in themselves. It's sort of like being the one sober person in a room full of drunk people. And so if you've ever been in that scenario, if you've ever been in a room full of people who are doing drugs or drinking and you're sober, they don't realize that their behavior is a certain way because they're all high and drunk. But you recognize it.
You say it's bad for me as an individual. Is it bad for me because I'm addicted? Have I become chemically hooked?
You have. The founders of the great Silicon Valley spying empires like Facebook have publicly declared that they intentionally included addictive schemes in their designs. Now, we have to say, this is what I would call almost a stealthy addiction. It's a statistical addiction. What it says is, we will get the broad population to use the services a lot. We'll get them hooked through a scheme of rewards and punishment. And the rewards are when you're retweeted. The punishment is when you're treated badly by others online. And then within that, we'll very gradually start to leverage that to change them. So it's this very kind of stealthy manipulation of the population. So it's not as dramatic as a heroin addict or a gambling addict, but it is the same principle.
And sometimes if you've done drugs or been drinking, and people who unplug find this, then they go around others, a lot of times you don't even know what they're talking about because you've unplugged, and so your mind is just in a different place. And so I'm going to go ahead and play the first part of this interview. And he's talking about why it is he feels it's necessary for people to fully unplug. And we're going to start diving into some conditioning and things like that. I feel like this might be one of my least popular videos, because whenever I make a video about something that I feel really strongly about and I care about, those tend to be the ones that get the least views. When I pander to what the media says is important, those videos get the most views. I hope over the course of time I can really change that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the first part of why he says it's very important for people to unplug from the media.
Principal reason why I should delete my social media, and if so, what is it?
There are two. One of them is for your own good, and the other is for society's good. For your own good, it's because you're being subtly manipulated by algorithms that are watching everything you do constantly and then sending you changes in your media feed and your diet that are calculated to adjust you slightly to the liking of some unseen advertiser. And so if you get off that, you can have a chance to experience a clearer view of yourself and your life. But then the reason for society might be even more important. Society has been gradually darkened by this scheme in which everyone is under surveillance all the time, and everyone is under this mild version of behavior modification all the time. It's made people jittery and cranky. It's made teens especially depressed, which can be quite severe, but it's made our politics kind of unreal and strange.
So yeah, I found that really fascinating. He really came out and said it. I think I'm in agreement with him that social media and television, well, you know, they kind of run in two different circles. The internet is a more dangerous place because there's the constant level of observation, which goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, why I make some content that specifically panders to what I know Google is looking for and the masses where their mindset is. So you will view a lot of videos of mine, and that's nothing I care about. Okay, honestly, like I've already dealt with those issues in my mind and I've already moved past them, but because the masses care about them, the only way for me to engage you guys is to pander to the mindset of the general public and not where I personally am as a human being. And I just did an interview. In that interview, I had to do that too. I had to kind of play a middle ground between what people can understand based on common rhetoric and what I believe. And so I had to go to where I believe, you know, and then swing back over to what they could understand and try to, you know, deliver information in a way that, you know, wasn't a shock to the system because it just was so out there from what anybody has heard. And what he is saying is that in conditioning, social media and the internet, they know that. So they watch you very closely, and then they do micro adjustments to your character by watching you carefully and slowly adjusting the data that you're streaming. Because remember, my YouTube and your YouTube are different. My Facebook and your Facebook are different. My Twitter, I don't have a Twitter, you know, I'm just using examples, and your Twitter are different. We each get a customized version, a customized virtual experience. And so this makes the virtual world very dangerous. It makes it extremely dangerous because what you're seeing is augmented reality meant to target you as an individual, and that's what he's talking about. Now the interviewer is going to go into another thing. Well, who's in control? This is something that I've had people direct at me a lot when I talk about my issue with the ultra rich. is that there's a level of control there. When I talk about my feelings about the media, that there's a small number of people with a level of control there. So this is where we see the fact that he's pragmatic and a businessman come out. He won't go as far as to say it's the ultra rich. What he'll say is it's the people that are paying for the advertising. But what you have to understand is these circles are one of the same. They're one and the same. They're not isolated pockets of people who have no relationship to each other, isolated corporations that have no vested interest in overlapping. Nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and let him explain his take on who is in control.
But who's doing the manipulating? I mean, there isn't some master sort of Wizard of Oz sitting behind the screen, is it?
Well, this is the peculiarity of the situation. The people who run the tech companies like Google and Facebook are not doing the manipulating. They're doing the addicting. But the manipulating, which rides on the back of the addicting, is the paying customer of such a company. So, and many of those customers are not at all bad influences. They might simply be trying to promote their cars or their perfumes or whatever. And indeed, I have sympathy for them because they're concerned that if they don't put money into the system, nobody will know about them anymore.
How is it different to just television advertising or billboard advertising or anything else?
The difference is the constant feedback loop.
Yeah, I just wanted to cut in there because he is trying to make a distinction because the interviewer called it out. The interviewer, as his mind is working, and I love to see this in people, the interviewer, as he's listening to the truth, he goes, wait a second. So then is television media that way? Is television media manipulative that way? And then you see him draw back, right? Well, I'm not going to draw back. Television media does work the same way. The difference is that I do agree with where he's about to go, which is that it can't be as precise, right? It cannot be as precise because they're literally not watching you. They're literally not able to fine tune to that point. But it's pretty precise because you have a worldview, right? So if you are a homemaker and Democrat, well, I don't know how many Democrats would be homemakers, but let's go with it. If you're a homemaker and a Democrat, you may choose, and I'm just going to throw some stuff out there because if I'm wrong and this isn't the way these shows and sites swing, don't beat me up. Remember, I literally don't watch TV. You might watch like MSNBC or CBS stations. You are homemakers, so you might watch like home and garden television or, home-oriented stuff. So what they do in media that they, in the media on television that they can't fine-tune to the point as they can in the virtual world is they make things so distinctly targeted that you choose your programming. And again, I made that video, four words, one phrase, or one word, four phrases, or something like that. I can't remember, that nobody wanted to watch. And so this ties into what I was saying in that video, which is that they create a space that's targeting. So BET, Black Entertainment Television, targeting Black people, right? MTV, targeting a certain group, conservative news networks, targeting a certain group, liberal-leaning, or I know a lot of liberals don't like me to say that because they feel liberals kind of been hijacked by the Democrats. So Democrat-leaning websites, targeting a particular demographic. So then you go and you voluntarily offer yourself up to their programming. So, I won't say that it's less insidious. I will say that it's less precise. But let's go ahead and listen to how he spins it. Like I said, he draws back a little bit, but I'm not willing to draw back on that topic.
So when you watch the television isn't watching you. When you see the billboard isn't seeing you. And vast numbers of people see the same thing on television and see the same billboard. When you use these new designs, social media, search, YouTube, when you see these things, you're being observed constantly, and algorithms are taking that information and changing what you see next. And they're searching and searching and searching, and they're just blind robots. There's no evil genius here until they find those patterns, those little tricks that get you and make you change your behavior.
In terms of society, I mean, you threw in this, it's making people depressed. But is there any actual evidence for that?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a vast amount of evidence. There have been dozens of studies at this point, including studies released by Facebook scientists. So this is something we can call a consensus. And when Facebook releases such things, they say, oh, but we do all these good things too that balance it. But there's a general acknowledgement that depression correlates. The scariest example is a correlation between rises in teen suicide and the rise in use of social media. And so, yes, unfortunately, this is real.
But are you sure you can blame it on social media? Is it not just those two things may have happened at the same time for other reasons?
Well, here's a distinction we have to make. It's very similar to the problem of global climate change. We can say statistically over the whole population, yes, the correlation is real. In any particular person, of course, we can't. Just as we can't blame any particular storm on global warming.
But it's causality, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it is causality, and this is something that's very well demonstrated. When the company's own scientists are publishing on this topic and come to the same agreement, I think it's time to say this is real.
So this is, again, something where television, all media kind of overlaps with each other. It's been proven that people who watch TV a lot have higher rates of depression. So if you're a person that goes to sleep with the TV on, turns the TV on, has the TV on as you're walking around the house, statistically you are more depressed. I know I'm about to offend some people, but that's what the research is showing. So that's not my personal opinion. And social media is the same way.
Do you think they're all as bad as each other? I mean, why is something like YouTube, which is basically just a way of watching video, bad for you?
YouTube is not necessarily bad for you. Remember, this is a statistical distribution, so for some percentage of people, it'll have an effect of making them crankier around election time and feeling needier around the time they might be making a purchase and so forth. And the way it works is that all the data Google can get on you, much of which comes from just your email or whatever else it might be, is fed into an engine that compares you with other people who share some similar traits. And YouTube's ordering of videos that are presented to you is designed to, on the one hand, maximize your engagement so you won't stop watching, but that's achieved not just by observing you, but by a multitude of people who are similar to you. And then when you do get an ad, it's contextualized in a way that has been shown to be effective not only for you, but for this whole population. So it's this giant statistical thing. And it's bad for you because it leeches your free will, it makes you cranky, it makes the world a little darker because you're not perceiving reality clearly anymore. It's being manipulated, it's being tricked in a way. The people who are paying, or maybe not paying, just using the system to in a clever way to get at you, are not necessarily pleasant people. They're sort of the worst actors in some cases.
But don't some users think, look, I can handle advertising. I know what I'm doing here. I'm getting a free service. And they think they're manipulating me, but I know what I'm doing.
The problem is that behaviorist techniques are often invisible to the person who's being manipulated. And this has a long history. This has been done for a long time. It used to be that the only way to be subjected to continuous observation and modification was to either be in an experiment. You could be in the basement of a psychology building and have students tweaking you for their projects, or you could join a cult, or you could be in an abusive relationship. I mean, this has been done before, and often the people who are in these situations do not realize it's happening to them. In fact, the whole point is that it's sneaky. It's a mechanical approach to manipulating people, and because it's so algorithmic, it doesn't involve direct communication, and people don't get the cues to understand what's happening with them.
I think it's very interesting that the comparison is made that you're kind of like an animal, kind of like Pavlov and his dog. It's a very base way of dealing with people because whether we like to admit it or not, human beings are very base. You know, I spoke about the first interview I did, and he is saying the same thing. You're basically like an animal. You get rewarded with positive feedback, this and that. And to some level, we know this. Even under my videos, I have like, you know, commenters that will try to threaten me with like, I don't like what you said. You know what I mean? Like, or, you know, put down my point of view. But I'm impervious to that, because what I recognize is that I can't and I won't adjust who I am for the next person. I'm not going to be fake for anybody. And I'm also not highly conditioned. He goes on to talk about this. Some people are more vulnerable to conditioning tactics than others. So there are things that I do in communication and in presentation of myself that pander to what I know people are conditioned to be responsive to, but I don't assimilate those things. And this is something that I teach my children. I teach my children the value of comprehending how the world works and having the ability to function in it versus being assimilated. Okay, those are two different things. And I was actually talking to a good friend of mine about this when he was talking about his place as an activist and how he works in higher echelons of society, and he has to walk a fine line between participation and presentation and being kind of overtaken and engulfed and assimilating into that mindset. Because once you assimilate, you can't do the work of activism, right? And so that is sort of the fine line that has to be tread to not become conditioned. But this comparison, like I said, of people to animals, they use the same systems of conditioning that they use when they're testing beasts as they do on humans. And that is because, you know, according, I'm Christian, so I don't subscribe to this, according to, you know, Darwinic thinking, you are nothing more than a beast. So what works on a dog will work on you. What works on a rat will work on you. What works on a bunny rabbit, shock and reward therapy, will work on you. But that mindset is flawed. So I'm going to let him go into a little bit more of how that conditioning works, and I'm going to come back with a little bit more commentary.
You know, is it because of the way people respond to things on social media?
Well, I'd like to give you a slightly detailed answer as quickly as I can, and that is that in traditional behaviorism, you would give an animal or a person a little treat like candy or maybe an electric shock, and you'd go back and forth between positive and negative feedback. And when researchers try to determine whether positivity or negativity is more powerful, they're roughly at parity. They're both important. But the difference with social media is that the algorithms that are following you respond very quickly. They're looking for the quick responses. And the negative responses, like getting startled or scared or irritated or angry, tend to rise faster than the positive responses, like building trust or feeling good. Those things rise more slowly. So the algorithms naturally catch the negativity and amplify it and introduce negative people to each other and all of this. And so what this does is it means that the algorithms discovered there's more engagement possible, say by promoting ISIS and promoting the Arab Spring, and so ISIS gets more mileage, or promoting the Ku Klux Klan and Black Lives Matter. Now, in the big picture, it's not true that negativity is more powerful, but if you're doing this very rapid measurement of human impulses instead of accumulated human behavior, then it's the negativity that gets amplified. So you tend to have elections that are more driven by rancor and abuse, and you tend to have outcomes that are kind of crazy.
And so the effect on the media we consume, the news, as well, is also alarming, because then it'll be the news that makes people angry that is the news that gets seen in the future or now, rather than, you know, a more balanced diet of what's really going on in the world.
Again, hold on, sorry. I'm so short. I'm trying to like prop myself up higher. I'm only 5'2". So I think that he's an amazing person to me, and that he is trying to be genuine and then reconcile behavior. Because I feel like for programmers, like you breathe. Computer engineers, robotic engineers, computer programmers, they live and breathe. This is their life. Let me tell you, like, I have a person I love, and he literally has binary code tattooed on his body, mathematical formulas. I know a brilliant mathematician, and before his wife died of cancer, shortly after my mom died of cancer last year, she said, you know, his wife and I were friends. She said he used to write math formulas as love notes to her. And so, yes, these people, their minds function in different ways. It's interesting for them to try to have a level of humanity and make that reconciliation. I know many of them understand that they lack that ability to make that reconciliation, which is why they often have representation when closing deals, and they don't do that themselves because that interaction is more difficult for them to foster. And so here we see this man whose mind is brilliant, and he thinks in code, he thinks in business, he thinks differently than the rest of us, and he's trying to make that human connection. And that's why I find Jaron so fascinating. That's why he's such a fascinating creature to me. And I appreciate his honesty. And let's just get back into, again, what he is trying to portray as cannot be the solution, and why it is why it will fail. And keep in mind that he also points out that the system was built for manipulation. Therein, we have to walk away from the system. We can't improve the system like so many addicts want us to do, right? The addicts of these systems want them revised, but there is no revision. These systems are your drug. And so you really have to put them down because they are made to get you high. They are made to manipulate you. They are made and designed for a certain thing, and we cannot make it clean. It just can't happen.
But do you think it's possible to create a do-gooding social network?
Yes, I'm absolutely positive. And the way to do it is to have a different business model where instead of, so right now we've created this bizarre society that's unprecedented where if any two people wish to communicate over the internet, the only way that can happen, the only way it's financed is through a third party who believes that those two can be manipulated in a sneaky way. It's an insane way to structure civilization. So we can keep all the good stuff, and there is good stuff on social media, of course. We can keep all that and just throw away the manipulation business model and substitute in a different business model. And there are many alternatives that would be better. They just have to be honest. It could be a paid service like a Netflix where you're paying for it and you're the genuine customer. It has to keep your interest. It could be like a public library. It could become a public thing that isn't commercial at all. That's an option. But what we did in Silicon Valley is we wanted it both ways. We wanted everything open and free, but we wanted hero entrepreneurs and hackers. And so the only way to get that was this advertising thing that gradually turned into the manipulation engine as the computers got faster. And this weird business plan, once you can see that there are alternatives, you realize how strange it is and how unsustainable it is. This is the thing we must get rid of. We don't have to get rid of the smartphone. We don't have to get rid of the idea of social media. We just have to get rid of the manipulation machine that's in the background.
Yeah, and so that kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video when I speak about content-wise. There's a lot of content I want to make that I have not made yet. And the reason I choose not to make it is because I have to play the game here in the virtual space. And this is full transparency. I have to play the game. So in the videos I make, I'm honest. I just don't care about a lot of these topics, y'all. I really don't. Like, I just, you know, there's some stuff just on a base level, I don't care. Like, I find that some conversations, one, I don't like to be in an echo chamber, first and foremost. Two, there are some conversations I think don't need to be had, all right? So it's sort of like if I have a handful of dry hay and there's a big fire over there and my house is right here, I don't need to have a conversation with the next person about if lighting my hay and bringing it over and laying it on my doorstep is a good idea or not. But I recognize that such conversations, such pointless conversations that have an obvious answer are popular among people. People like to argue about things that don't need to be argued about. And people like to talk about things that have been talked into the dirt. And I'm a more action-oriented person. So I like to talk about what can be done, but that doesn't pander to Google's algorithms, right? If I made a whole lot of videos just dealing on media conditioning, breaking free of that, the importance of research and the law, Social Security law, Freeman and the fallacy in their thinking, but then what freedom really looks like in our society from a legal perspective, and how to gain that, that would not pander to Google's algorithms, right? Kavanaugh panders to Google's algorithms, and things like that. And so I touch on those topics and try to put my own voice into them, but hear what he is saying. He is saying that there must be a level of pandering because Google's watching you. Not just Google, but mostly Google, because you guys all probably use Google. These sites are watching you. And for us to have a conversation, I have to pander to the real you that they're watching. I have to make myself something they think will keep you glued. But hear me, I'm telling you to unplug. If that means unplugging from me, to unplug from everything, please do it. You know, it's a manipulative, you are offering yourself up for the slaughter. You're offering yourself up to be built, to have your mind screwed with. You're willingly going, hey, here's my brain, here's my thought process, here are my ideals and values. Can you manipulate those for me? And it's not just for consumerism. I mean, he's trying to flip it like this is just to move consumerism. But you'd have to be stupid to believe that, because everything and every tactic they use is based around getting you to buy something. This is bleeding into the political arena. This is bleeding into sexuality. You know, what is the video I just did, where research showed that exposure to social media is triggering children who never had propensity to be transgender to believe themselves to be transgender. So this is a real thing. That is my 3-year-old. This is a real thing. That's why I don't like to film anywhere else in my house. But this is a real thing that's going on. And so let's just get back to what he is saying about how this is built. And if you guys can believe it, I literally changed one smoke alarm because I've had like 2 people complain about this, and another one went out. And when I say that my ceilings are massive and why they put the smoke alarm, I mean, I know why, probably because it made sense to put the smoke alarms up high, but it's like ridiculous. Nobody has time or the fearlessness to be climbing up on these ceilings trying to change smoke alarms all the time. So I did one, and now I have to find the other one, and yeah, I'm pretty upset about that. But let's get back to what he's talking about.
But your advice tonight to everyone watching this is delete all your accounts.
I would like to make 2 very quick pitches on that account. One, if you're a young person and you've only lived with social media, your first duty is to yourself. You have to know yourself. You should experience travel. You should experience challenge to yourself. You need to know yourself, and you can't know yourself without perspective. So at least give it 6 months without social media, and really quit it. Don't quit Facebook, keep another Facebook thing like WhatsApp, because then it'll still be spying and manipulating. Get rid of the whole thing for 6 months and know yourself, and then you can decide. I can't tell you what's right. You have to decide, but you can't until you know yourself. And then for the rest of society, I'd say, as long as we can have some small percentage of people who are off it, then the society can have voices to give perspective. If everybody's universally part of this thing, we cannot have perspective. We cannot have a real conversation. And it's too lonely right now. You know, we need more people who are just outside of that loop, who are thinking without the manipulation, and I think we'll find it extraordinarily valuable to have them.
Yeah, there you go. Manipulation comes in many forms. When we do it person to person, it can sometimes be more obvious if the person doing the execution isn't the best executor. But what we are literally hearing him say is that they've taken the humanity out of the conditioning and left you open to just the mechanism itself. There's no delivery person. So there's nothing to be suspicious of to most people. Sorry, I'm propping myself up taller again. But the reality is that, you guys, what do you want? What do you want more than one of them? One of their figureheads telling you what's up? Wake up! People, get up. Open your eyes. You're not awake. You think you're conscious. You are not conscious. You're the opposite of conscious. You're racist? You think people really think like you? No. They pander to your negative emotion and put all you retards in a room together. You think you're conscious? No. They know you think you're conscious based on your search history. And they put you in a room full of people like an echo chamber to say everything that you believe. So you don't seem to understand. You're here on my channel right now because I made a video that pandered to your echo chamber. And for those of you that stay, I appreciate it, because I know that it's hard to see some of my videos that pander seemingly, because it's really where I stand. Like I said, I am honest to what you believe. And then in the very next video, it's a challenge because you're like, this is nothing like what I believe. But that's because I'm thinking for myself. That's because there's not a blueprint and a narrative that I've committed to, created by someone else and propagated by a machine designed to manipulate, that I have subscribed to. I wrote my narrative. I defined my belief system. You do the same. Walk away from this madness. If you want to walk away from something, walk away from Facebook, walk away from Twitter, walk away from YouTube, throw your TV in the trash. Trust me. Give it 4 months. That's my 3-year-old. Give it 4 months and see. Find yourself. Give it 4 months of you being alone with yourself, with no one else to impose their thoughts on you. Just step away from it and discover your own train of thought, your own narrative.
Why have you sort of turned on your own kind?
I love Silicon Valley, and I do not at all feel that I've turned on my own kind. And just to be clear, I'm very much a part of this. I've sold a company to Google. I'm not in any sense an outsider. I believe that what we're doing is not in our own self-interest. The business interests are a part of society. If they destroy society, they destroy themselves.